Joining me now, Federal Liberal Senator Sen Fierravanti-Wells and Labor MP Stephen Jones. A welcome to you both. Stephen, do you agree with Albanese, that this campaign is not good enough?
Yeah, it falls a long way short. I've been pretty critical for a while. I've had more information in my mailbox from Clive Palmer about vaccines than I have from the federal government. And I tell you, the stuff from Clive Palmer is pretty ordinary. I was expecting something a lot better. The fact that the ad they're rolling out in Sydney tomorrow targets a group of people who are young people who are ineligible to receive the vaccine, which is pretty risible. And the one that I've seen today, frankly, falls a bit short. I don't know that it's really going to move anybody. You think that's one thing that Scott Morrison's supposed to be good at, marketing, advertising. That's supposed to be his big strength. And I think these are duds, actually. I can't see that they're going to work. And, the big problem we've got at the moment is lack of supply of vaccine, particularly in New South Wales, where we're being smashed by this latest outbreak.
I mean, Conchetta, that's exactly right. We're not really dealing entirely with a complacency situation here. We're dealing with a supply issue.
Well, Sharri, in relation to the supply, it's very clear that bit by bit, yes, there have been problems in relation to the rollout, but I also think in terms of hesitancy in the community, part of that has actually been due to the fact that I don't think until Australians have a choice in the vaccine that they want to have, that we're going to see this hesitancy dealt with. I think a high-profile campaign is going to be very important. I haven't seen the full details of that campaign, but we have had campaigns in the past. I remember the Grim Reaper ad that was very effective. So we will see how this happens. But I do believe that until there is choice afforded to Australians, that hesitancy will continue in the community.
You mentioned Simon Reynolds' Grim Reaper advert, but Stephen, we've seen, I just played it on the show, the other advert that's running in the hotspots where there's a young woman in hospital struggling to breathe. That is a terrifying advert, but how can they be running an advert like that when people under 40 are not eligible for the vaccine?
Yeah, look, spot on. You've got to get all your ducks in a row on this, and clearly they haven't. I'm not a critic of running advertising. I think we should be running advertising, community information campaign to counter all the anti-vaxxer rubbish that's out there. Really critical, give people confidence that the government's got this. That's been lacking for some time. Instead of a Grim Reaper, we've got a dumb sleeper ad in the roll up your sleeves. And this one that you got on your screen at the moment, which targets a young person, frankly, the big issue at the moment, people are ringing up their GPs, trying to get an appointment, and the GP is saying, thanks, your name's on a list, but we haven't got any yet. Or, in the case of people under the age of 40, you're not eligible. We'll give you a call when you are. So, the best thing the government can do at the moment is to get those supplies moving, particularly into Sydney, Greater Sydney. Connie and I are from the South Coast, from the Illawarra region of New South Wales. We've got problems with the rollout down here as well. Aged care sector, I was talking to some aged care workers the other day. We're contemplating passing laws making it mandatory for aged care workers to get a vaccine. No problem with that. But how about the government do its bit by ensuring that we have supply, and the supply's not there. Those aged care workers weren't going to be able to get their first jab until September. So, it's been a pretty diabolical effort.
Conchetta, the Premier in New South Wales, Gladys Berejiklian, is also coming under fire, particularly for the mixed messages about telling people that there's a lockdown, but allowing retail to stay open, and that's where some of the transmission at least has occurred when people were shopping, and she keeps telling people not to browse, but the stores are still open. Do you think an approach of a hard lockdown should have been taken, or do you think it was the right decision to support business by allowing them to stay open?
I think with lockdown, we haven't probably had and found the right balance. There is no doubt that at first the Australian public were understanding of the need for lockdown, but I think that now people are becoming fed up. And I think that some of the draconian measures that have been imposed, which have taken away liberties, have not even had the benefit of some sort of discussion by parliaments around Australia. So I think that now the message needs to be very clear, it needs to be very simple, and it needs to be one where Australians need to be able to see a way out of this, and that includes a clear plan for...
So just to be clear, you don't think we should have had a hard lockdown at all?
I think that in the end, there are real concerns, and I think the reality is that when people have lost their businesses, they've lost their livelihoods, they've lost their jobs, and there has been the mental distress that goes with all that, there will be blame apportioned, and that blame will be apportioned to politicians because the balance hasn't been achieved.
But in this instance with the Delta strain, what is the other option?
Well, Sharri, I think that in the end, there is no doubt that there has been a problem in relation to the vaccine rollout. And I think in the end, had we had the vaccine...
I think we've just lost Concetta Fierravanti-Wells there. Stephen Jones, thank you for your time. Concetta, thank you for your time. And as we saw there, Concetta Fierravanti-Wells is a federal Liberal politician, and she was just blaming the slow vaccine rollout. Correctly so. This, of course, we wouldn't be in this lockdown situation had there been adequate supply of the Pfizer vaccine. Of course, the Morrison government couldn't have foreseen the problems with the CSL vaccine or the blood clots with AstraZeneca. But that was a very interesting comment coming from a politician within the Morrison government itself.